Joining us now is military historian who's authored this entire comprehensive report on behalf of CHPM. That is the Center for Military History and Perspective Studies, a Swiss independent think tank that was founded way back in 1969. Adrien Fontanellaz is with us. Adrien, namaste. This is Anand here. Thank you for speaking with us at CNN News 18. This is an independent assessment, and you've authored this report that comprehensively games and studies the air war between India and Pakistan in May last year, Operation Sindoor. What are your assessments, the key assessments?
I would say, really, if we have to go on the core of it, it is obviously India got the upper hand of this 4 days long sequence, because it is true it was badly surprised by the Pakistani Air Force reaction during the night of the 7th May. But after that, once the Pakistani counterattacked with UAV, rocket artillery and so forth against India, then the Indian air defense systems managed to intercept the bulk of the Pakistani munitions, UAV included. And then once, meanwhile, the Indian Air Force managed to diminish the efficiency of the Pakistani-owned air defense networks and long-range radars, which means in turn that once India counterattacked in strength, that is during the night from the 9th to 10th May, it was able to fire long-range weapons toward a series of Pakistani air bases, and then the Pakistani accepted the ceasefire. So the conclusion is quite obvious. That is, the Indians ended with the upper hand in this conflict. As far as I'm concerned, the main interest of the report was not necessarily to provide even more information of these sequences, as most of what I used as references was public, such as the talk of Air Chief Marshal Singh, just to give an example, or the Pakistani ISPR press conferences. So it's rather public information. But in the West, in countries such as Switzerland and other NATO countries, there is a tendency to overlook this kind of experience. And I wanted to emphasize that this conflict was between India and Pakistan was extremely important, because not only both were fighting on the nuclear threshold, but foremost, it was opposing well-equipped, well-trained, very professional air forces. So when you see this kind of war, you have to study them carefully, because there is a lot of lessons to be drawn, not only in India, but also in the West.
When you say that Pakistan had the early advantage, seized the early advantage, you claim that there was some destruction and some loss that the Indian side did bear, but they recalibrated to turn things around. Now, how soon was this recalibration, and how important was this? And where do you think India was able to establish its superiority? When we look at from a military gaming point of view, understanding how conflicts are done, will this also be an important lesson, which perhaps will be learned by other military forces across the world?
I would say it's a matter of escalation. My understanding is that the initial Indian strike plan was a demonstration strike against LAT and GEM, and therefore it was not waged as a full-scale military operation, because in that case, of course, you are trying to strike your targets, but first you are dismantling enemy air defenses, which the Indians didn't do, because the main targets were the 9 terrorist camps, foremost in the case of the IAF, Bahawalpur and Muridke. So the Indians went without engaging the Pakistani armed forces, and in return, the Pakistani Air Force reacted by ordering its fighter jet to engage in Indian aircraft within Indian airspace, which is important. They didn't have the time apparently to engage the Indian strikers, which actually bombed the two terrorist camps. But then the Pakistani engaged Indian combat air patrols on the Indian side of the border. So I guess, I can only guess, I do not have any defined answer. We will have to wait for the Indian Air Force version of all of this to be certain about anything. But obviously the Indians were surprised, probably surprised too by the range of the PL-15 air-to-air missiles, possibly by the use by the Pakistani of cooperative targeting. That is, it is not the fighter jets which are opening their own radars, but the missiles is guided through an airworks which is flying far behind. So basically, the Indians were not in full-scale pure warfare operation when they struck the first time. Then the Pakistani reacted in that fashion, and then the Indian Air Force began to react more on a war footing mode. That is very systematic, defending against enemy attacks, preparing the field by attacking with their own UAVs, loitering munitions, Pakistani radars, and air defense. And then, when the next escalation came, the theater was set for these decisive strikes with something like 50 long-range ammunitions.
Now, one more question that I want to ask you is, was there interference or enabling or help that the Pakistanis received from another nation? Because some senior officials from the Indian military have said that they were surprised the level of involvement of Chinese intelligence or intelligence sharing that was happening between China and Pakistan. Did you find this, and did this make the report?
I didn't find anything specific in the regard. So frankly put, I don't know. So of course we know there is a very close cooperation between China and Pakistan. We know that the Chinese would be very curious to gain a maximum of data from the use of their own combat system, that is G-10C fighters and PL-15 missiles, for instance, or even long-range CMG 400 hypersonic air-to-ground missiles. But this is merely deduction. I don't know. I wouldn't be much surprised if it was so, but I don't know.
But there is no doubt that it was India that finished with the upper hand, and it was Pakistan that bore the brunt of the losses.
Absolutely no doubt, because when you do have two air forces fighting each other, I mean the main goal of both is striking the enemy nests, that is the enemy air bases, and the simple fact that the Indians were able to do so at will with long-range ammunitions, whilst we do not have any clear documentation, any satellite picture showing that Indian air bases were stricken, then it is telling the entire story.
Well, Adrien, thank you very much for your time, and we have perused the report and also covered it very comprehensively here on CNN News 18. Thank you. Thank you for speaking with us.
Good afternoon.